Good morning. Lovely to be here with all of you in Montreal. My name is Valerian Bernard, and I am with the Brahma Kumaris. And it is my pleasure to introduce today this multi-faith panel. And we would like to be able to address the topic that we have been chosen, which is spiritual imperative and moral urgency of an ambitious GBF. To start with, I would like to ask my friend Gopal Patel from Bhumi Global to speak on the multi-faith priorities and COP15 Faith Coalition and tell us about the breadth of the multi-faith constituency and the process and strategy of action that we have had here. Please, Gopal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Maureen. Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. As Valerian mentioned, my name is Gopal Patel. I serve as the co-founder and director of Bhumi Global, which is a Hindu faith-based organization that works internationally with Hindu communities. And I'm also part of the coordinating team here for the Faiths at COP15 delegation. We are a multi-faith delegation of about 30 different faith-based organizations here over the 2 weeks at COP15 to push and advocate for a strong and ambitious global biodiversity framework. We've been working and tracking the negotiations of the GBF for the past 2 years, and a couple of weeks ago, we released our 6 key priorities that we wish to see in the GBF. And within those priorities, we have over 50 faith-based organizations who have endorsed those positions. Those 50 organizations represent hundreds of millions of people of faith right across the world from every single major faith tradition, from Hindu, Buddhist, Christians of different denominations, Jewish, Muslim, and other communities as well. And I'll just run through very quickly what our key priorities are. Firstly, we wish to see that the GBF is ambitious in its goal, that it recognizes the urgency of the moment, and that there is no time to waste in achieving a rights-based, equitable, nature-positive world. Aligned with that, we wish to see a rights-based approach is embedded throughout the GBF. We also want to ensure that the GBF recognizes the cross-cutting issues of biodiversity, climate change, pollution, ecosystem restoration, and other environmental concerns the world is facing. We also want to make sure the GBF recognizes the importance of addressing issues around production and extraction. For us as faith-based organizations, that is vitally important, recognizing that much of the production and extraction affects the global south for primarily our consumer habits in the global north. And then finally, we want to see that there is a strong implementation mechanism for the GBF, that a piece of paper with 22 targets is not enough, but an implementation mechanism, a structure for how we want to implement those targets needs to be in place. And we as faith-based organizations are ready and willing to play our part as part of that implementation mechanism to achieve that nature-positive world by 2030. We are here because we are committed to the cause. We are here because we are already doing work on the ground in our communities, in our churches, mosques, temples, and other places of worship. And now we are here at the global stage saying that work with us, we want to work with you so we can achieve the world that we all wish to live in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gopal, and thanks for reminding us that, and the audience today, that we are already doing the work in our communities. It is my pleasure now to introduce Maureen Goodman. She's the UN rep for Brahma Kumaris in Vienna, and she's also the head of the BKWSU delegation to the COP15. Spiritual traditions have a very unique way to understand and frame the relationship with Mother Nature and creation and promote specific lifestyles. Could you tell us more about all of this, please? And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm representing the Brahma Kumaris, and so we help people to develop their inner selves and understanding the impact of that development spiritually on the outer action and systems that we see in the world. It's very, very important for us to care for biodiversity, for all ecosystems at this time, because we have reached very much a crisis point, a critical point. We look at the concept of ecosynthesis, which not only takes into account the web of life, of nature, of all the ecosystems of our Earth, but also brings into the equation the ecosystem of consciousness, because we are all living beings with thoughts and feelings that have an impact on how we are, and then how we take decisions and how we act. And another important aspect too is that our connection with a divine energy can also help to restore our resilience, our inner strength, and help us to move in a way that will enable a flourishing earth to happen for future generations. It's care for all of creation, and care involves understanding, it involves empathy, it involves selflessness, it involves restoring right relationships of harmony. And of course, first relationship is with the self, and then, of course, our relationship with the natural world. Caring for the self is very important, because unless I care for myself, I will be overtaken by the influences around me and the fear of what may happen. We need inner strength to be able to act with humility from our conscience, and to be able to move in the right direction and take those decisions that really are going to bring a very radical transformation in the way in which we relate to the earth. And so care vital at this point, beginning with the self, extending to the whole of creation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maureen, for reminding us the importance of caring and the connection there is between caring for the self and for our ecosystems. It is now my pleasure to introduce Carolyn. She is working with the Laudato Si movement. And it's been such a powerful, inspiring, and courageous document for people in the Catholic faith, but also for other religions, because it speaks the moral aspect of justice and social change. Could you tell us about how the Laudato Si movement is putting these ideas into action in the field of biodiversity, please, Carolyn?
Thank you so much. My name is Caroline. I work and serve with the Laudato Si movement as the Biodiversity and Climate Change Manager. And Laudato Si is a letter to all of us by the Pope, which seeks to inspire and, allows us to reflect on our own actions as individuals, as groups, and see how our actions impact the environment around us. And in reference to the Catholic social teachings, we do take that opportunity to look on how our impact as individuals is affecting our common good. And Laudato Si movement has been able to run a few other interactions across the world, and we have been able to release a movie called The Letter, which really is inspired by the Laudato Si encyclical by the Pope. And the letter is really a rallying call to action to everyone to be able to reflect, to see, judge, and act, and be able to take conscious actions to protect our common home. We also have the Laudato Si Action platform, which really is a platform where all of us can engage and be able to look at how are we taking those actions to our local communities. Are we able to mobilize and organize around the community and see what little actions can we start promoting the protection of our common home? And with that, we have a lot more actions that are happening across the globe, and we do recognize that just as part of the multi-faith group, we need to come together, dialogue, and find solutions together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for reminding us that sharing the planet, we need to talk together in order to find solutions together. Thank you so much for that. It is now last but not least, to introduce Lauren Van Ham. She's from the United Religion Initiative. And in my experience, URI has always been a very active at bringing different faiths together. Could you share with us about the major engagement in biodiversity of yourself or some other organizations you work with, especially at the level of grassroots to face the environment urgency?
I would be happy to. Thank you, Valerian. Thank you, fellow panelists. So the United Religions Initiative works with cooperation circles around the world. To be in a cooperation circle, there need to be at least 3 religious traditions or indigenous expressions present. And so just at its baseline, there's a lot of interfaith cooperation happening. And cooperation circles around the world have absolutely registered the moral urgency of this moment. In Malawi, we have phenomenal tree growing efforts that are happening thanks to Christians and Jews and indigenous groups who have come together to plant thousands of trees. In Paraguay, multiple faith groups have come together to perform acts of eco-literacy for young people. And in India, there are phenomenal efforts to collect water and rainwater harvesting projects and so forth. What we are seeing for decades now is that with education and encouragement, faith traditions come together in beautiful ways to take care of things on the ground. And launching this week, there is a new guidebook that is coming out in partnership between the United Religions Initiative and the Center for Earth Ethics. These 2 organizations have created a guidebook to encourage more multi-faith and interfaith collaboration with on-the-ground eco-restoration efforts. This guidebook will provide case studies of things that have already taken place around the world to protect clean water, to protect food security, to protect safe and green spaces in cities, and so forth. And it is our intention that this guidebook would absolutely encourage more groups to come together and collaborate because this is so important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for telling us about this guidebook, because I believe that any instrument who helps different organizations work together is really precious. We have finished our presentation here because we wanted to give space for questions. So please, if there are questions from the floor, you may raise your hand. And if you do not have questions, I have questions. Or they could also question each other. Is there anyone who would like to ask something? Raise your hand and a mic will be given to you. Yes, there is a man at the back. Could you give him a mic? Thank you.
Hi, this is Brian Rowe with National Catholic Reporter. Just wondering, how would you assess the status of negotiations at this point? And are there specific areas that you would like to see more progress?
Thank you very much. Who amongst you would like to answer this question?
All right. Thank you, Brian. As the multi-faith group, we've really been keen on ensuring that we follow up with the document development, and our colleague Alexandra and I have been following up on certain elements of the GBF document. For me, so far, I've been following on the financial mechanisms, and I would like to see a bit more robust outcomes from the financial mechanisms element of the document, because as Gopal said, just having a document without the implementation would be just a document. And so for us here, in as much as we're doing the work on the ground, we would like to see more commitment and more urgency in the financial mechanisms bit of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Anyone would like to add something? Otherwise, I noticed that there was another hand at the back of the room.
Thank you very much. This is Mohammed Lahiyai from Oman Delegate. When we talk about the spirituality and environment or biodiversity, I feel there are different levels of spirituality. I don't know, how do you define it? Is it the faith, the principles? But it can also go deeper. What we hear about the spiritual experiences, that there is no actually separation between us and the environment and biodiversity. We are all one. So I don't know, how do you, I think maybe you have different approaches to defining spirituality. I don't know. Is it clear?
Thank
Okay,
you very
thank
much,
you.
Mohammed, for your question. Yesterday, we had an event where each face was actually able to speak to this topic exactly. So I'm sure that our panelists here will be delighted to give you an answer.
Thank you. I understand spirituality to be the natural awareness that I am a spiritual being. And so, yes, we are here in physical forms, of course, but yet each of us has thoughts, feelings, awareness. And so this is not a physical thing. We are spiritual beings. And so spirituality is that awareness. And of course, when we have that awareness of ourselves, we're able to separate ourselves from perhaps the things that we have acquired that maybe have overshadowed our original nature. And we understand the original nature of the human being is peace, is loving. There's a natural ability to act with wisdom, with conscience. And so spirituality helps to restore us to that way of being. And then, of course, our relationship with the natural world will be transformed accordingly. Hope
Thank you
that's
very
helped
much,
you.
Maureen, for your input. Maybe Lauren would like to add something.
Such a beautiful question. I think that the motivation in this moment can be quite varied depending on the spiritual beliefs of the practitioner. I mean, certainly for some, the reason to restore an ecosystem is because the liturgy has taught me that it is a good and right way to be alive. It is also true that for me, I know that my body is mostly water. And so therefore, I want to care for water, right? And that the plants are breathing out the oxygen that I need to breathe in. And it is in that reciprocity that I feel a certain amount of spirituality and life force. And so I regard the trees and the plants as my kin, as my relatives. So depending on how one expresses their spiritual beliefs, there are many roads in and many reasons to act.
Thank you so much for this lovely explanation about the interaction. Maybe Gopal would like to add something.
Sure, not much to add to that. I would just say it's very much a personal thing. I can speak from my own Hindu tradition. It's about my spiritual practice is about relationship, and what is the relationship I have with the natural world. And in Hinduism, it says that the planet is the body of God, and that the trees are the hairs on the body of God, and the rivers are the veins of the body of God, and the mountains are his bones. And so looking at the world in that way, that everything is sacred and everything is connected to the supreme being. That's certainly how I relate in a spiritual way to the natural environment. But as definitely as Lauren and Sister Maureen said, we all have to take it in our own personal way based on our own personal faith and spiritual traditions.
Thank you, Gopal. Maureen, your mic is still on. Maybe Caroline would like to add something? And then we have another question from the floor.
I would just say, echoing what has already come through, is yes, it is an individual's obligation, because we are called to be stewards of this earth, to be conscious of the engagement with the environment around you. And just regarding, the faith, the name faith, or rather the name Catholic or Christian or Muslim, ultimately all our faith communities does invite us to have that at a very personal level before we can go out and inspire others to do so. So ensuring that synergy is created across all faith and all religions. For me, this does present the opportunity for all people of faith and all people of all religions to come together to find solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would say also that when it is about doing something for a common problem, we really get on very well all together. I would like to give you the word.
Yes, I'm Kusumita Peterson from the Parliament of the World's Religions. And in a somewhat different vein, my question to all of you is, when you advocate directly to policymakers and member states, what do you believe is most convincing to them that will get them to actually move in the desired direction? And of course, recognizing that different countries may have different receptivity.
Thank you very much, Kusumita, for your question. Who would like to answer this?
I can go first. One thing that we've been very intentional about with our multi-faith delegation and our priorities and our advocacy around the GBF is to be a supportive voice, but be strong in what we're asking for. We, as faiths, we do not want to show up in an antagonistic way. We don't want to show up in a critical way. We recognize that these negotiations are difficult. They're hard for us, and we're not even in the negotiations. And so for the negotiators, the parties who are stuck in the room upstairs every day for 2 weeks straight, we recognize the stress, the difficulty, the anxiety that they're going through. And so we've really tried to be a voice of comfort, of support, but at the same time pushing to say that this really needs to happen, and you have us behind you to make the hard decisions that we all need to make to get to where we need to be.
Thank you very much. Maureen?
I agree very much, and I just emphasize that it's really about the human connection, and that's what works. And so often many of the negotiators, as you're indicating, are conflicted inside themselves. And so to offer a space where that can be expressed is also very important. But we are human beings together as one family at the end of the day. Thank you.
Lauren, would you like to add something?
I echo everything. This is about commonality. This is about grandchildren and 3 generations from now. So how can we work together to get to exactly where we need to go? And how can we do that quickly and peacefully?
Caroline.
It reminds me of an event we had just a few days ago, and we did get support and the presence of a few country delegations in the space, and that goes to show that we are open to dialogue, we are open to support, we are open to pray and promote them and their actions as they deliberate. So we are here together, as I keep saying, to find solutions together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We actually try to open a chaplaincy program in some of the COPs because the negotiators, many of them were in tears. Any other questions? So if there are no questions, I would like each one of you here to give your last comment for this press conference, please. Shall we start with Carolyn this time?
Perfect. As we continue with the deliberations, as we continue to engage, as we continue to network, I would urge all of us to ensure that we are not only strong in our engagements, that we also ensure that we provide a platform where everybody feels comfortable to be able to express. And in that, we will be able to promote each other's engagements within this process and also to ensure that we lift each other up as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Gopal. We all have 30 seconds, more or less.
Thank you, Valerian. I'll just say what I said at the beginning in my opening remarks, is that we as a multi-faith delegation here at COP15 are partners in this work. We are not bystanders. We are not on the sidelines. We are in the negotiations. We are in the detail of the policy, and we will be there as part of the implementation mechanism, or partners for the implementation, once the GBF is confirmed and agreed upon at the end of this week. So please look at the faith community globally as partners in this work going forward.
Thank you, Gopal. Lore?
I would add that in this final week of negotiations, may we be focused on our highest and best, and may we listen for the voices that are hardest to hear and perhaps least represented.
Thank you for that. Maureen?
Let us, as we move along together, really seek harmony, because then that will bring forth the best out of everyone, and not to forget or underestimate the power of prayer, the power of pure thought, the power of contemplation and meditation in everything we do.
Well, I would like to thank all of you. You were beautiful, so I vote for all of you. Have a lovely day. Thank you for your attention.